When I was starting out in horticulture, I was told very firmly that you can't root brambles from cuttings. There are other Rubus species that you can root, but brambles in particular were a no-no. People just said you can't do it. So I thought, in my usual way, I'll just go on experimenting until I could do it. So that's what I did. So we're going to take a tray here, tip in some cuttings. This is a bramble, and it's a bramble with green fruits. And if you look very carefully at the shoots here, you can see that each one has got a little bud or several buds in the centre. There's buds going on in there which are going to be the flowers and the fruit. And I've experimented with this one several times before with a certain amount of success. But I thought what I do, I normally do it just after flowering. So I thought, but maybe I'll just try a little bit earlier. So I'm going to strip these cuttings down in the usual way, get the lower leaves off. And then I'm going to, we go to about there, take it out there, and then possibly reduce. We've got 3 leaflets there, possibly reduce 1 more leaflet there, tidy the bottom end up to give less of a surface for bacteria and fungi to get in, and then we'll just go through and do this lot. And you can see, as before, it all looks a bit chaotic when I'm doing it, but at the end they all end up nice and neat in between my fingers. I remove the little dead bits at the bottom here. You can see these little dead bits just in case they're going to rot. I'm not saying they are, but you never know. Just tidy the bottom end up. So this particular bramble is called Rubus Cottenham green. We think it's a form of Rubus ulmifolius, and it has beautiful green fruit which just about turn amber when they're ripe. So you need to look for a colour change from green to amber. It's beginning to sound a bit like traffic lights, I know, but you're looking for a colour change, and then once you see it going slightly amber coloured, you know it's ready. And they're much sweeter. They seem to be much sweeter than the normal blackberry. They don't have the kind of bitter acid taste, which certainly some brambles can be quite acid, particularly ulmifolius, and it takes away from the pleasure of eating it. But this doesn't have that sharpness. It's sweet all the way through, and people take one look and say, oh, it's not ripe, but once they taste it, it's like, oh, can I have one of those? And this is why I'm attempting to do a few more. You can do it from layering the tips, but it's not particularly easy, although I have done it on more than one occasion. But it doesn't really produce a lot of tips that you can layer. Not quite sure why this is. The stems grow and they arch over as if they're going to produce a tip, and then they get to the bottom and then nothing seems to happen. So I'm having to use slightly more sneaky methods to get this thing to go. Right. So there they are, and yes, they are spiky, and yes, it does hurt. So there we should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And we go in there. Prophylactic rooting powder. Is it real rooting powder? Is it just powder? Who knows? In they go. There's 10 of them, and there they are. Right. And then what we're going to do, because every time I tried to do this in a normal propagating system in a close atmosphere, it really didn't work. So what we're going to do is we're going to put them in a plug tray like this. So we just fill the plug tray up like this, take out the big lumps, give it a bit of a tap just to knock it down a little. level it off like that so we can see where the actual plugs are, and then we're going to stick them in here like this. And so this cutter, when it's trying to root, does not like a really close atmosphere, that is a really humid atmosphere. So what we're going to do is we're just going to put it in this plug tray and then put it in a slightly shady place in a tunnel, so it's going to be warm but it's also going to be out of direct sun, and we're just going to go fingers crossed and see what happens. Anyway, so there's 10 of those. I'll now do the labels. Because it's a bit of an experiment, I've written the name on the label and I've also put the date so we know exactly what's going on in terms of that. And you can root all the brambles, the almifolius variegated, the Rubus almifolius bellidiflorus, Rubus thyrsiflorus plenus, lots and lots of different brambles. I haven't actually tried with commercial fruiting blackberries, but I don't see why it wouldn't work with that as well. So I'm using little side shoots that either are just about to come into flower or have flowered. And then we just, as I say, put this aside and see what happens. So now we're going to look at a different group of blackberries or Rubus, and these are the shrubby ones. So the ones that are definitely shrubby and are not, do not form brambles, that is to say they have got a strong woody framework, they are really easy to root from cuttings, and they can be in a close frame, that is to say with high humidity, but you need to choose the right shoot. So we'll get a whole load of bits and pieces down and we'll have a look at them like this. So this is Rubus spectabilis Olympic double, Rubus spectabilis Olympic double, and if you look carefully you can see there's brown woody pieces, not going to work. You can see there's little flowering shoots up the top here, little short shoots with flowers on the top, not going to work. So what we want are the shoots which are soft, which are below the flowering shoots and are definitely not brown and woody. So there's only 2 on that piece, so we're going to collect them like this. Now generally these shrubby brambles, Rubus, are not thorny. In general there's no thorns on them, so they're much nicer to handle. Here's another piece here. We've got lots of lovely soft shoots, and so the soft shoots work best, which is why it's always better to wait until the flowers are beginning to go over. So here we are, woody, no good, flowering, no good, but these young strong pieces on the side are exactly what we do want. So we'll only get 4 from that one. You might get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 from that one. Another 1, 2, 3. So we're just stripping out the pieces that might actually be useful. We're stripping them out, and then we end up with a small pile like that. And then we're going to take this piece by piece and we're going to take it down into what constitutes a cutting. And I'm going to take out the very soft piece at the tip and leave the slightly woodier piece with a leaf on it, because I believe the very, very soft piece is going to be a liability. The plant will spend all its time trying to support that piece and won't actually be able to do a good job. Here we are, is another trifoliate piece of leaf. We're going to take the big one out to get the water balance right. Another little bit of stubborn leaf there. We're going to tidy the end up, just make it tidy, and we're going to work our way through this pile. So this particular one has got double dark pink flowers. Here's a petal. You can see what the colour of the petal is there. Lovely double dark pink. And it does produce fruit, like all blackberries. They do produce fruit, and the fruit is edible. But in this particular variety, because it's double and it doesn't know when to stop making petals, in fact, when you look at this flower, it's as if every stamen has become a petal. Because it's double in that way, what tends to happen is that the centre of the flower becomes a curious boss of little tiny leafy like, I won't call them stamens, but they're sort of like, a little bit like a petal, a little bit like a leaf, and you get this hard boss in the middle. And that means that although the fruit is edible, it's always got this rather nasty bit in the middle that you can't eat. But Rubus spectabilis like this does have a single form, and if you can find the single form, the fruits are very good to eat. They're a kind of reddish amber colour, and they're extremely tasty. They're not that big, but they're extremely tasty. So if you can find the single form of Rubus spectabilis, then that's definitely worth doing. Here we are again, reducing the leaf area, tidying up the bottom, like that. Now, I've left these slightly too long, so they're a little bit more wilted than I would like, but anyway, never mind. You can't have perfection, but as long as it's good enough is the important thing. And see, that's still almost a little bit too leafy, so I might just take a little bit more leaf off like that. As I say, it's all about the water balance. If the water balance is correct and the cutting can take in enough water to support itself, then everything's okay. But if it's trying to support a bigger area of leaf than it can actually manage, then it will constantly be suffering because it just cannot manage that amount of leaf with the amount of water it's able to take in. So you're trying to create a new balance between the amount of water the cutting will be able to take in. Now you see that's again, it's a little bit too leafy, so I'm going to take the leaf down again just to reduce it. And as always, when you're taking cuttings and propagating things, it can look a little brutal, and sometimes it is brutal, but you're always working within the limit of what the plant can take. So you're being brutal and it looks brutal, but actually the essential parts of what you're doing are about not hurting the plant, are about making sure the plant has or is left with the capability to repair itself, restore itself, and to start to grow roots, which is what you're aiming for. And one of my other favourite blackberries for eating is a species called Rubus biflorus. Rubus biflorus, and this has little tiny orange blackberries. Has beautiful white stems. It's viciously thorny, but the fruits are so wonderfully tasting that we let this plant put itself here and there on the nursery, and we appreciate them and enjoy them. And then at the right time of year, we're getting lots of fruit off them. And so on any given day, we can be having black blackberries, red blackberries, orange blackberries, and green blackberries, all on the same day, all ripe. Right, that probably looks like that's about it. So then they're all lined up as they were before, all nicely lined up in here. Then we count them as we did before. Right, so I've got 19 there. Okay, so in they go in the routing powder. There they are. Then we'll get them labelled, and then they will be stuck in a sand bed with plastic over the top.